Been running on this Wednesday afternoon, getting ready to bring you the news as it happens over the next 2 hours. We'll be with you here over the next 2 hours till 2:30. Myself for the first hour, Ben Handelman joining for the second hour. We've got a lot looking forward to bringing you both nationally some news from President Donald Trump as he returns home to the U.S. from the NATO summit overseas. We will also get you a little bit of fun on the sports angle. The major matchup happening at American Family Field in just maybe less than an hour at this point. Yeah, 1:10 first pitch. Two of the best young pitchers in the game of baseball dueling here in Milwaukee. We'll get you some info on that. But first and foremost here today, this just has been going on recently. This is Charles Franklin on the right, the director of the Marquette Law School poll that we use so often during election season. With the latest poll numbers, they were just discussing President Donald Trump's approval ratings and taking some questions from the audience members. Let's listen in live.
Tariffs are still pretty unpopular. 57% think they'll hurt the economy, 31% that it'll help the economy, 10% say it won't have much effect one way or another. That's a little bit down on the percent hurt and a little bit up in the percent help, but by a difference of 4 or 5 points from February. Tariffs were, of course, much in the news in April and early May, have been somewhat less in the news in the last month or so, but not a whole lot of change in this and still a lot of skepticism on tariffs. It is worth noting that the president's party, 61%, think his tariffs will help the economy, and so that's certainly helping maintain support in the party. But independents are solidly opposed to or think tariffs will hurt, 64%, and 95% of Democrats think they'll hurt the economy.
Excuse me, let's move on to, will Trump's policies reduce inflation?
Yeah, as you all know, inflation was the #1 concern throughout the fall campaign. 55% think his policies generally, not just tariffs, policies will raise inflation, increase inflation. 31% think they'll reduce inflation, 12% no effect. And here again, that similar party split, 61% of Republicans think that the policies will reduce inflation, but 54% of independents think it'll increase and 95% of Democrats increase.
So let's talk about the budget. Will this budget that's currently making its way through the legislature, will the federal budget, would it hit the deficit? Will it raise the deficit? Will it lower the deficit?
Yeah, a bit of a controversy on this point, but 67%, so solidly 2/3, think it will increase the federal budget deficit, 30% reduce it. But a majority of Republicans, 56%, think it will reduce the deficit. I point out, despite Senator Ron Johnson's opposition to the budget bill, the reconciliation bill, because of deficit concerns. We've heard that from Senator Rand Paul and a couple of other Republicans. I think it remains to be seen whatever passes, and goodness knows we don't know what will pass at this point, what effect that does have on the deficit, whether that actually is a concern for Republicans specifically. But independents and Democrats overwhelmingly think it will increase the deficit.
And another issue which was big in the election was immigration and deportations.
We've been asking these questions since last winter, a year ago, more than a year ago. 56% support deporting immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally. 43% are opposed. A huge majority of Republicans in favor, 93%. Independents are evenly split. And 79% of Democrats are opposed, though 21% support it. So we ask half the sample that question, but then we ask the other half the same question, but add to the end of the question, including those who've been in the country for a number of years, have jobs, and no criminal record. With that wording, it's 56% opposed, 44% in favor. So the gap there between deportations without any further elaboration, that gets higher support. But when you mention these sympathetic characteristics of long-term residents with jobs and no criminal record, then it's a majority opposed. But it's still 44% in favor of deportations, even with this most favorable wording. Both of these numbers are down just a little bit. Support for deportations in general is down 5 points from February, and for deportations including non-criminals, it's down 6 points. So there has been a little bit of downward drift in this, but it's still a fairly popular policy, certainly compared to the concerns people have about tariffs or inflation.
All right, before we move on to some state budget topics, does anybody have any questions in regards? Hold on, we're going to get the microphone to you real quick.
Just looking at those numbers, 94, 60, 23, 56, I am always surprised that the Republicans can hold on to a majority of, of position.
Of the electorate generally, you mean? Yes. And, part of this is independents have had more disapproval or opposition to President Trump's proposals, though not all of them. Some of these are 50-50 splits with independents. But the partisan base really is quite strong, and that has helped him maintain congressional support for things. Also, while the Democrats are certainly more opposed to deportations, if we look at the first question, it's still 21% of Democrats who say deport people in the country illegally. That's far from a majority, but it's not a trivial minority on that question. So this is one where exactly who we're talking about is important, and I think our comparison of these two questions shows majority support on the one side, majority opposition on the other. The polling firm YouGov did a nice poll 2 weeks ago with about 8 or 10 different circumstances for deportations. And it won't surprise anybody that they show a wide range of support. Murderers, yeah, absolutely. Young children, no, and a lot of variation in between. So it really depends on who you're thinking about in terms of how you answer this question.
Any other questions about what we just spoke on? All right, so let's move on to the state budget. So the Wisconsin has a $4 billion surplus, and you asked the question about that.
Yeah, so again, for sort of background, the question we asked is, we first told people that the state has a budget surplus of about $4 billion at this point. How much of that surplus would you like to see given to tax reductions? And we only gave them 5 options: 100% for tax cuts, 75%, 50%, 25%, or none of it go for tax cuts. And in this slide, I've combined the 2 endpoints. So the green dot up there at 35% is people who say either 75% or 100% should go to tax cuts. But right next to it is the red dot, also at 35%, who say less than 50%, either 0 or 25% should go for tax cuts. And the 29% purple dot to the left is saying about half should go for tax cuts. So depending on how you put it together, if you put 50% or more, you're up over 2/3 want a large tax cut. And if you put 50% or less, then that's also about 2/3. So you can decide whether this is a glass half empty or half full. But I think it's clear that there's a lot of support for a substantial tax cut out of that budget surplus. Now, we still have ongoing negotiations about the tax cut, so I have no idea where this will actually end up. At dinner last night, someone asked, how many questions came up that you didn't ask only developed as political issues in the last week while you were in the field? So Israel and Iran, bombing Iran, there's been a bunch of those kinds of developments. The budget is a constantly moving topic, and so this issue of tax cuts can be changing even as we sit here.
You asked about extending Medicaid for new mothers.
Yeah. This is a proposal that's been working its way through the legislature, though it's not clear at all that it'll pass. It has broad bipartisan support in the legislature with a lot of Republican and Democratic co-sponsors in both houses of the legislature. 66% would extend Medicaid coverage for new mothers for a full 12 months after birth, as opposed to the current, which I want to say is 30 days, but check me on that. But it'd be a substantial increase. But this one's got 57% opposition from Republicans, 75% support for independents, 92% among Democrats. So a bit of a partisan divide in the public, even though, as I say, there's a lot of Republican co-sponsorship on this legislation, but I'm not sure where it stands at this point.
And I thought that number, the 57% number, seemed kind of high, because I know on a national level, Vice President Vance has been talking about we need to have more babies.
Yes. Well, it's an interesting political debate. It'd be good if we heard more public discussion about this. Is this something to support new mothers, their health, the health of their children, encouraging more parenthood? Or is it, as some have argued, an extension of essentially a social benefit package or welfare that a lot of people oppose those kinds of extensions? So I think it depends a lot on how you're framing that issue. And while those of us that follow this stuff for a living are aware of the bill and some of the elements of it and so on, I think for the most part, you'd have to be a pretty attentive newsreader to have really found out about this and know what's going on with it.
Let's shift our focus to the University of Wisconsin.
Yep. So the UW budget is, of course, contentious every round of budgeting, and the public is quite evenly split on this. The light purple or gray bar over to the dot over to the right, 49% say the UW budget should be held about the same. 27% say it should be increased, 23% say it should be reduced. So a very even split between increase and decrease, with that biggest group, 49%, keep it the same. In February, we asked about the $800 million increase the university had asked for, and a solid majority were opposed to that big of an increase. We didn't mention a number in this case. We just said up or down. And again, an issue that's changed is since we did this poll, the proposal for, I think it's an $83 million cut has come forward. But too late, we didn't get to ask about that one.
And this next graphic, I think it's important for you to highlight the question that you asked in regards to the budget.
So this is a second question.
Certainly some interesting discussion there, getting a little bit into the numbers, but also, of course, what it speaks to the role that the administration has done so far trying to implement its policies and how that's being received from voters that were polled by the Marquette Law School poll. As we give you a shot at the White House live on this Wednesday afternoon, those two big flags that were recently raised on those giant poles on either side, the north and south lawn of the White House, flying along with the flags by the Washington Monument in the background there. We'll get you some updates on what has happened with the administration. President Donald Trump returning from the NATO summit in the Netherlands with a big win today as the different members voted to increase their defense spending. That is something the president has pushed for since his first term in office, and received today in what was a much less contentious meeting with NATO allies than what had been the case during his first term. We'll try to get you some more information on that, including the news happening here in Wisconsin. And of course, that highlight coming for Brewers fans today with two great flame-throwing young pitchers here in town facing off as the Pirates and Brewers play the rubber match of a series in just about 30 minutes or so. This is the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see what we find for you on the other side. Thanks a lot for watching on this Wednesday.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here at 1246. Nice to see 66 degrees on the weather bug there. Much cooler today than what we've experienced recently here in southeastern Wisconsin. All those days in the 90s, though it does come with some rain today as we give you another live look at American Family Field. That's part of the reason the roof is actually apparently opening. All right, some rain earlier, but we were watching on the fly here. The roof seems to be slowly opening there with a bit of a window for today's game. 110 Pirates Brewers with Paul Skeens, the ace for the Pittsburgh side, up against Jacob Mizorowski, the hard-throwing rookie for the Brewers, who they hope will become their version of Paul Skeens. Two of the best young pitchers in the game, two absolute flamethrowers. I talk about it on a day where the temperatures are dropping. These are a pair of guys who can touch 100 miles per hour with their fastball repeatedly. So we will see heat of a different kind inside the ballpark today as they are getting ready for that game. Again, 110, a first pitch today. All right, we do want to tell you about something else going on. It feels like we can't go a day, a week, a month here in Milwaukee without some kind of story related to reckless driving. It is one of the biggest issues here in our city, in southeastern Wisconsin, and certainly something that affects the country as well, but an interesting new approach potentially as we bring in Jason Calvi for us right now, our reporter on this story today. Jason, I'm sure even me just saying that, you've covered your fair share of reckless driving stories here in the Milwaukee area. Such a problem. The question is, what can you actually do about it? And there's an interesting new technology that you're finding out about today. Take it away.
Well, we've seen in Milwaukee, they've really been investing a lot of money in infrastructure as of late. In recent years, they've been adding, as you know, if you drive around the side streets in Milwaukee, you're going to find many speed bumps. You're going to see these cutouts where they place concrete and other things to kind of slow traffic down, to force people to slow their vehicles down when they're coming up against these speed humps or these bump outs, these carve outs, etc. So that's the infrastructure that we've been seeing invested in Milwaukee. But a new proposal on the table now is to invest in watching from the skies. Daniel Steiniger is with the Daniel Hone Foundation. He is the grandson, the grandson of our former mayor Daniel Hone, and he's in charge of the Daniel Hone Foundation. So he's trying to encourage, I guess you could say, the police department here in Milwaukee to continue to invest in drone technology. The drone program is really relatively new here in the city of Milwaukee. It really started at the RNC. So the city invested in drone technology to protect as the nation was coming to Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention in the summer last year of 2024. So that's when this drone program for the Milwaukee Police Department started. And so we're only talking about a few people that are trained to operate these drones right now. In the spring of this year, the Fire and Police Commission approved a drone policy for the Milwaukee Police Force. So there is a drone policy now on the books for the Milwaukee Police Department. And the question is, what should come of this? And Daniel Steiniger with the Daniel Hone Foundation really wants to see a fleet of drones in the sky watching and being able to see things happening like those reckless driving instances that we've seen across the city and we featured in several of our reports. He wants to see those drones up there so they can see these things happening. And, you know, right now, for example, in Walworth County, the State Patrol is using helicopters up in the sky to monitor speeding infractions, right? So you have somebody in the helicopter that's able to see people speeding, and then they radio ahead to a trooper or a deputy ahead and say, hey, we got this vehicle here, this Illinois plates 1235949, just giving a random number there for a license plate from Illinois. Let's give that, the trooper ahead can then pull that person over, give him a ticket, say, hey, we caught you in the sky with our helicopter, you're going 90 miles an hour, here's your ticket, thank you very much. So that's already the policy in Wisconsin. We see that happening on the Illinois border, in Wisconsin, or other places like Walworth County happening right now. So the question is, can we use drones to do the same thing in Milwaukee? And that's what there's going to be, a push now from the Daniel Hone Foundation to continue to grow that drone fleet. And really, it's a small operation right now since the RNC. But can you imagine having more and more drones up here? It is, though, a concern for some people. When you talk to the ACLU, they would say they're worried about having continued growth if you've read 1984, you know Big Brother, there's this worry about having continued surveillance on people in Milwaukee. But really, you can't go anywhere in the city and not have surveillance cameras operating on buildings. I'm looking at buildings. There's Ring cameras, Ring doorbell cameras everywhere, right, Carl? So the question is, and there will be debates about this, is this the right thing for the city to invest in moving forward? Because it costs a lot of money to invest in this drone technology, and you have to have operators, because every one of those drones is operated by someone somewhere. And so that's going to be a big question moving forward, but Daniel Steininger is really trying to get the ball going on that discussion, and he thinks it would be a smart move for the city to invest in having drones patrolling from the skies our city.
It's a very interesting new era we are in, certainly, as even, just personal drones are all over the place. People getting them from places like Costco, Walmart, things like that. These are obviously much higher level of technology and precision needed to fly like that. We use drones here at the station to get aerial footage as well. So there are more and more of these around. The question of privacy, I imagine that's where the ACLU is really focused on right now. We certainly had this in our coverage of the implementation of flock cameras around the area, and just the fact that there are more and more cameras around like this. Is there any discussion right now of what this expansion of the drone program would have in terms of limitations, what it would be able to do, what it would not be able to do if they continue to increase the amount in the skies?
Right, so there is those guidelines that were implemented in the spring, laying out what the plan should be for the police force, and there's going to be continued debates about this because they're not free. The drones are not free. So no matter what happens, it's going to require budget. So if there was ever a time in the future where the city's like, yeah, let's invest in 10 of these drone cameras to operate, MPD could operate them across the city, that's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars, but you're also going to have the staff that are going to have to run those machines. So you're talking about a huge budget to have a fleet of drone operators in the sky. Well, how much does that compare to how much you're putting in with the speed humps and the carve-outs, et cetera, that right now is physical infrastructure in the city trying to crack down on reckless driving. So there's going to be a big debate about the money, and that's where these ethical and legal issues are going to come into play. And there have been battles in the courts and other places about this very question of drones. So it really is a new avenue. We do, as Brian Polson has done such an exceptional job going into depth with the flock cameras in Milwaukee and also in the suburbs as well. Flock technology is being utilized throughout the area and throughout the country, really. And so there's going to be continued debates and discussions about this. But the ACLU, again, just trying to raise some questions and say, is this really what we want to have all of this surveillance in our city right now?
Let me ask you this too, Jason. I don't know if you've gotten into the kind of nitty-gritty, the weeds of the actual use of the technology, but I'm certainly familiar with seeing those signs on the interstate system, usually more in rural areas, saying, aircraft being used to enforce speeding, whether it's helicopters, whether it's planes or the like. What are the challenges of operating drones in an urban environment like the city of Milwaukee versus a place where there's a lot of farmland, where you have some more space, there's not buildings, there's not busy intersections? What's the challenge there?
Yeah, I mean, so for example, if we could just maybe, look at the buildings that are around us, you're dealing with some buildings that are, this one's, 5 stories high here? That one's 5. The one across the street's, 15, 20. And so, navigating that is very difficult because, you also have cloud cover. I mean, so I am a visual observer for drone technology. So I went through formal training with our company and other people at the station and other stations for our corporation. And so I went through the whole training. And there are certain times where we can't fly because it's foggy or you've got that smoke coming in, where the visibility is so low that we can't fly those drones. We have to have our eyes on the drones when we're flying them. So there's a lot of questions about that when you're navigating a terrain where you've got buildings that are so vary in height, right, Carl? So that's a difficulty. But we do know the U.S. military is using drones in urban situations in other countries where they're using drones very high up in the sky to come down and watch somebody that they think might be a terrorist, and then they can actually use those drones to attack the terrorists. And that's obviously in other countries, but that is just one idea that you can go up very, very high with the drones as well. So it's not, but we have the airport here, so there's still a lot of safety issues that you're going to have really wrestle with as you're moving forward with having more drones in the city. But we do know other cities are using drones as well. Is it going to just be used for crowd control? If there's a protest, put the drone up in the sky. That raises issues then for ACLU, because they're saying, hey, you're targeting protesters, right? You're only bringing this technology out for protests. You're targeting the protesters. They're worried about having all that technology maybe running through AI, and then are they sharing that with the federal government? So there's a lot of questions about implementation moving forward on that technology, Carl.
It's certainly interesting. A lot of questions, maybe not as many answers as people would like at this stage, but that's why you're out there asking the questions and try to get those answers for us. Jason Calvi covering this for us. Interesting new technology, potentially battling what is a problem. No one will doubt that. Reckless driving here in the city of Milwaukee certainly takes a number of lives each and every year, damage as well, but is this the right way to tackle that problem? We shall see. You can see Jason's full reporting later today on Fox Local. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl. Appreciate it.
And as I mentioned, if you want to check that out, again, Jason's full stories will be on our evening newscasts, which stream here on Fox Local, as well as on our Fox 6 Milwaukee YouTube channel. All right, we're going to take a short break here on the live desk as well, and then get you what is a much lighter topic. We are headed into weekend number 2 of Summerfest. Very exciting, with yet again some really big names going to be in town performing for us Thursday, Friday, and Saturday coming up here. And we will be joined by the president and CEO of Milwaukee World Festival, getting us ready for the weekend, the promotions, how you can get in for free, and all the like ahead of another fun weekend at the big gig. We'll check in with Sarah Pancari after this on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here as we are on this Wednesday afternoon, but of course here in Milwaukee, always looking ahead to what's to come with the big gig. As I try to get you a shot here downtown Milwaukee, I think we have got a good one. Actually, you know what? It's American Family Field, because today's about the stars of baseball, tomorrow's about the stars on the stage. And we bring in Sarah Pancari, the president and CEO of Milwaukee World Festival. I'm certainly hoping the rain that we had this morning moves out of the way for this weekend. We'll be dodging some of it. But Sarah, great to have you on with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Let me first start with this. We're coming off of a big weekend, a whole lot of music that people got to enjoy amidst the hot temperatures. What was kind of your takeaway from weekend number 1 as we are in full swing here with the big gig?
Yeah, it was a great weekend, and I think that Milwaukee came out, right? I mean, as the Fox team knows, because you were all here and supporting us, Milwaukee came out, and we're ready for Summerfest. So we definitely felt it as a team, and we just can't wait to get started again tomorrow.
I love always seeing the autographed guitars behind you. And yeah, I think maybe it was just the result of like a cooler spring, but it felt like, oh, all of a sudden Summerfest is here and now let's go. We're off and running. What would you say?
Yeah, no, let's go with that heat for sure. But
Yeah,
we'd like to bring that down. So that's Rob's job. Like
Yeah,
he's responsible for delivering.
We'll work
for
on
sure.
it for sure. Let me ask you, maybe, if each of the weekends kind of has a story, what do you think the theme going into weekend number 2 is here for the big gig?
I think another weekend of just blockbuster shows. So we're going to kick off tomorrow night with Lainey Wilson. Anyone that's a country fan or watches that show Yellowstone knows that she is just an absolute star. She played a Summerfest stage a couple years ago as a ground stage in the afternoon. And this is that great Summerfest story where you've got an artist who continues to pay their dues, and then boom, they are in the amphitheater. So she'll kick us off in the amp tomorrow night. The following night, Friday, we've got the Killers, a longtime Summerfest favorite, with Cold War Kids opening, a great show. And then ending the weekend in the amphitheater, we have Megan Thee Stallion with Flo Milli. So it's that great variety. It's that Summerfest variety, not only in the amphitheater, but across the grounds. The grounds are just absolutely terrific. We've got everything from the Avett Brothers, Riley Green, Cake, Bossman D-Lo, Offset, Devo, which I know I'm hearing a lot about Devo, Psychedelic Furs. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Jody Messina, we've got Mayday Parade, Plain White Tees. And I mean, you just have to go to the app and you can see all of those incredible artists. So I would say music is definitely going to be the theme for the second weekend.
Yeah, I was pulling up the schedule and like there's almost too many to mention, and that's just like the primetime headliners there that I'm interested in seeing this weekend as well. Let me ask you, because I know it's a familiar story, like you mentioned with Lainey Wilson, where someone up and coming in the industry is on one of those small stages, returns to the amphitheater, maybe a headlining ground stage or the like. I don't know how much you get the chance to interact with the actual artists themselves when they're here in town, but how rewarding are those stories, and the fact that a city like Milwaukee, which is not the biggest stop on so many of these tours, can still pull in those big name acts because of the relationships and the work done over years and years and years?
Yeah, I think that's, Carl, you nailed it. It's not only the work that our team does and our great independent booking team, but it's also the fans. I mean, people at Summerfest know that those artists are worthy of their attention and their support. And so what I always say is that the not only the artists have cultivated Summerfest, but our strong fan base who comes out to see Lainey Wilson early, and then of course to buy a ticket at the amphitheater. That's really the story of this festival, is that it's not just the incredible grounds or the festival's legacy, but it's really the fans that show up. So I think that, to answer your question about how they feel, I mean, what we hear is that given this world-class facility that we've constructed on the lakefront in Milwaukee, given the great fans, given the great legacy of the festival, that artists really, really love to play here. So we hear that often, and it's just even more sweet when you can come back and play a stage. So Cold War Kids, they closed us out at the Miller Lite Oasis last year, and now they're going to come back and play the amphitheater opening for the Killers. So it's just that great Summerfest story that we all know and love.
Yeah, it is pretty cool to see, and everyone has a story about like, oh, I checked out this person, years ago, and now they're back.
Right.
It is one of the
yeah,
joys
I mean,
of it.
same.
I know.
Right.
I know it's part of your job, right? This is what you do each and every day, and maybe the business side is different than the booking side, but how do you stay on top of music trends, of new artists? It feels like everything, especially in the TikTok age, is changing, by the minute, by the day. How do you guys stay on top of it where you are continuing to deliver that marquee audience?
Yeah, I think the variety, what you'll do when you walk around our halls is, and credit to the booking team, they're so open. They ask questions of all of us. What are you hearing? What do you like? What are you remembering? So there's a band on this year's festival that several of us on the team have said, okay, what about this band? What about this band? And so, we all have these ongoing lists that we cultivate. But we are always open to hearing what fans are looking for. I know just recently the social team put up who do you want to see play 2026? Because we're quite frankly already booking 2026. So It's for me personally, having young people in my life is a way that I stay in touch with what's coming up on TikTok. But certainly, I have my favorites and try to use those features that if you like this, you'll like other things. And that's always a great way to discover music.
You'll appreciate this. I definitely heard Chapel Roan for the first time thanks to like one of my daughter's 6-year-old friends, and then was like, oh, this is on the radio everywhere
that's a progressive, that's a progressive little girl. That's great.
I
mean,
so.
and what like I remember truly the team. We watched the live stream from Lollapalooza last year and watched. I mean, that was she really had a moment. And she's such a terrific artist and someone that of course we'd love to host here. So it is listening, staying close to the ground, and making sure that you're open to discovery, because that's really what you have to be open to learning about new artists.
I know we're kind of previewing weekend 2 here, but looking ahead to the third weekend as well, just kind of curious about the kind of quirks of the calendar this year. For so many years when it was in the original format, July 4th was the off day, right? You guys would take a break in the middle of there. Coming up this weekend, you will have a full slate of concerts there, right smack dab in the middle of weekend number 3. What does that opportunity offer to you guys now with this 3-weekend format versus the more traditional way that so many people grew up with?
Yeah, so I mean, we used to close on Mondays, and so it was always like the first year that the team did that. It was it happened to be July 4th, so we ended up in this pattern where it was assumed July 4th. But in terms of what it means for us going forward, I mean, it's going to be another blockbuster weekend of music, of course, but also we have that great holiday where our fans can come down. And what's great about Summerfest and living our legacy, living our mission. Every day next weekend, the third weekend, there'll be an opportunity to come in free. So again, that accessibility that is so important to what we do here, from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, each day you can come down to the festival free, compliments of our sponsors, in this case, Walmart, Quick Trip, and Potawatomi. So we think it's a great day for people to come down and celebrate. We're also going to be singing. Our friends at Johnsonville are so fun and they're so creative. We are going to be singing America together. Happy 249th birthday, in preparation, of course, for the big one next year. So, lots of fun activities going on next weekend, as well as this weekend. And Carl, I'd be remiss. I know that you're warming up for your appearance in the Celebrity Pickleball Challenge.
Well,
on Friday
I wasn't going to bring it up, but...
I know that you and your colleague Ted Perry are very excited about this opportunity to demonstrate your pickleball prowess at Summerfest.
Indeed.
So how you feeling about that?
In fact, we are so confident that we have practiced together exactly 0 times so far, getting ready for Friday. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, okay, so if you don't want to do that, and the mayor, you're going to be playing with the mayor and the fire chief, so you've got some pretty stiff competition.
I know.
We also, what we're really excited about that same day is we're going to be doing glow golf. For the first time ever at the festival. So, the hole-in-one is here, and we love the hole-in-one. Our partner with Lexus, they're going to help us actually do glow golf at night. So LED rings and the LED golf balls. So it's going to be really cool. And then there's even more sports because at 5:30 on tomorrow, Thursday, that is Thursday, tomorrow, Christian Yelich is going to be with us at the AmFam House. So
awesome.
Lots of sports happening as well as all the great music.
I love it. You guys are coming for the world's biggest sports festival moniker as well, maybe down the road. If we can pull it off.
We'll leave that to our good partners throughout the community. But no, I mean, it's great. I mean, our daughter, the first thing she does is she says, where's Roscoe? She wants to see the admirals at the sports court. So all good stuff happening at the festival this weekend.
Let's make sure we get this too, because since you mentioned it. So for this weekend number 2, tomorrow's Throwback Thursday. A lot of great music for that. Between 12 and 6, you can get in $5 admission, 50% off select beverages during that time. Thanks to Pick and Save. I know you like shouting out the sponsors. College Pride, that's with On Milwaukee. Again, 12 to 3. Is that the deal? You don't have to be in college. It's just bring your ID, bring a shirt, anything like that. You can get in.
Yeah, I mean, as an alumni, as a supporter, we also have if you're a student that's going to college, bring your FAFSA. I mean, we really want to make sure that we're celebrating all the colleges that are participating. And I think the best way to do that is go to the app, download your Summerfest app, and you can see all the participating colleges.
I love that. Bring FAFSA. Like, trust me, I'm paying for it. Get me into the music at least.
We don't want to, the students that are on their way to college, they want to celebrate too.
Yeah, fair enough. And then and we should mention as well, this Saturday as well, 12 to 6 is Military First Responder Appreciation Day, which I know is always pretty special with Generac as well.
Yeah, and the other one that I just want to mention, on Saturday, we also are doing the Make a Child Smile Day.
Yeah.
We've had a long-term relationship with the Next Door Foundation through the Northwestern Mutual Foundation. And so we're really excited. If you're the first 1,500 to bring down a new or gently used book, those go directly to the Next Door Foundation serving Milwaukee
cool.
kids. So, that's our story. We want to make sure that everything we do has that double benefit. And so we're really excited on Saturday to celebrate that.
All right, 2 last quick questions, because I know you've been very generous with your time and you're a very busy person. First of all, speaking to that, what is a Wednesday afternoon, the day in the middle of Summerfest before you get back to weekend number 2, like for you? Is it like an 18-hour day, 20-hour day? When do you get a moment to breathe?
I just go back. The team is exceptional. Everyone's gearing up. We also have Summerfest Tech running right now.
Yeah.
So we've had Summerfest Tech running the past 3 days, which is an awesome conference. Again, we're seeing great growth there. So we are all spread and preparing to welcome guests. But yeah, it's a long day.
We'll just leave it at that. Long day. All right, last question for you, because you always have some kind of a little inside track here. Whether it's someone that you saw last weekend, or maybe even better, someone that you're looking forward to this weekend or next, perhaps a little bit off the beaten path that people should be on the lookout for, that you think puts on a great show and should not be missed here while they're in Milwaukee.
I think so we are watching The Fray, which is a band you might remember.
Yeah.
There's a whole day of artists at Uline, and I'm gonna look over the side. So Zach Seabaugh, Amble. I think that if you like The Fray, which is a band that a lot of us just remember being so powerful, I think that's going to be a great day of music. But I never choose bands. That's like choosing children, and which as you know, as a dad, you don't do.
I have 3 children. You have many more bands to deal with and coordinate down there at the festival grounds. Sarah, thank you so much. Continued success, and I hope weekend 2 is just as great as weekend 1 as we keep it rolling here. Thanks for joining us.
We'll
here
see you
on the
soon.
Live
Thanks
Desk.
again.
All right, we will let Sarah get back to her very busy schedule, as you heard, getting ready for all of the fun. Weekend 2 starts tomorrow. The headliner, of course, as I'll pop this up for you again, Lainey Wilson on Thursday, followed by The Killers on Friday, and then Megan Thee Stallion to wrap up the headlining amphitheater shows on Saturday for weekend number 2, and a lot more fun to come once we get into weekend 3 over that 4th of July holiday as well. All right, plenty more to look forward to, perhaps not quite with as musical a bent to it here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but we'll see what we find after this break. And a huge thank you again to Sarah Pancari, taking a little bit of time out of a very busy schedule to join us here on the Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Diffenbaugh back with you here. It's 1:15 on this Wednesday afternoon, the day before Summerfest weekend 2 gets started down there along the lakefront. 65 degrees, pretty cool compared to what the Summerfest folks dealt with last weekend. Some temperatures in the 90s, in fact, for that opening weekend. All right, we'll give you a quick look around before we check in with our reporter Durante Matthews, who's covering an interesting summer meals story for us today. We're going to bring you that momentarily as he gets dialed in and looped in, but we have this whole board. You're seeing it behind me here. There's another screen up above me with different feeds from around the area. Some of them regional, some of them national. We even have international, of course, with some of the things going on in the Middle East these days. But this one caught my attention. This is from our reporting partners with WMTV. That's Madison TV. I'm not sure what this is a shot of, but they've had this up for quite some time now. Looks like a boat or a ferry, a crossing of some kind out there, perhaps in the Madison area. Just kind of thought it was fun, and it's been up there for a little bit. Looks like it might be frozen, actually, because the water's not moving as much as I think it was earlier. So, hey, there you go. Lighter example of the fact that we never know what we're going to find here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but when we do, we bring it to you. Let's get you back to the ballpark where the lights are on and the roof is open, and the game is underway between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, this has been a highly anticipated game. You know, usually it's a getaway game. 1:10 first pitch on a Wednesday afternoon. The team's playing early, and then the Pirates getting out of town as the Brewers will continue their homestand. But not today. I think all eyes in the baseball world are on this game because of the two people on the mound. That would be the ace for the Pirates, Paul Skeens, all of a 1.85 ERA so far. And then for the Brewers, it's the rookie phenom, Jacob Misiorowski, who has been just incredible in his early start, a couple starts so far for the Crew, a 1.64 ERA, and has barely given up hits as his time with the Brewers has started off spectacularly. Both of them are kind of the next generation of young ace in Major League Baseball. Skeens and Misiorowski, both absolute flamethrowers. Misiorowski in his debut, first 3 pitches were all over 100 miles per hour, and Skeens can certainly get up there when it comes to the radar gun as well. So right now, 0-0. It's the top of the first. Runner on for the Pirates, but that's about it from the early action of Skeens Misiorowski at American Family Field. We'll see how many more of these we get between these NL Central teams over the next few years. But two of the best in baseball, hopefully. Certainly in the case of Skeens, the Brewers are hoping that Misiorowski can reach those lofty heights as well. All right, let's get you one of the other stories happening in southeastern Wisconsin, of course. It is the Wisconsin Live Desk, not the Milwaukee Live Desk. We're going to head down to Racine here in southeastern Wisconsin. Check in with our reporter Durante Matthews on this story for us. How are you doing, my man? I'm very impressed. I guess the temperatures have dropped. You wouldn't be doing long sleeves and full tie if it was some of those 90-degree days that we had, right?
Absolutely not. No. So we do got we have a little breeze out here. So yeah, that's what I broke out the long sleeves.
That's the good news. That's the good news. All right, you're handling a great story for us today. Tell us about these summer meals that are going on, because we know this is a need for so many families and kids not getting the regular school lunch programs and whatnot during the summer months. What's happening to help them out?
Absolutely, Carl. So right here, we're in Racine. We're near Geneva and Hamilton. We're right actually outside of this local cop house here, and that is where the meals are being distributed and where families can come in and actually eat. So the program, it's a new initiative. It just kicked off Monday, actually, and it's called Dinner Beats Hunger. It's named after the aunt of the officer who sort of kicked off this program, and like you said, it offers summer lunches to families. And I think what makes this different from a lot of summer meals programs is it's not only the kids they get to eat, but they also offer meals to parents as well. So inside, parents can come in with their kids, they can sit down at a table, and they can get lunch at 11:45 and also dinner at 4:30. So I spoke with the officer who initiated this, and she said this was a very good way to sort of keep that family dynamic together, because oftentimes, you know, during the summer the parents are working, kids are home for for the summer, and a lot of kids depend on meals from schools to eat on the day-to-day basis. So it's a little different during the summertime. So this is a chance for them not only to eat, but to spend that time with their families and actually eat together.
When you talk to some of the people too, what are some of the numbers that make this unfortunately so necessary when it comes to people who can't afford meals over the summer months, who do rely on those school programs and don't have access during the summer? What's the kind of reality that unfortunately many of families in that Racine area are dealing with?
So we're still working on getting actual specifics when it comes to percentages, but the officer said they do have a high poverty rate when it comes to families, particularly in this area, and also during the summertime when a lot of parents are out there, working and trying to provide for their families. She said kids are often left to fend for themselves. So this is a way to sort of bridge that gap and sort of skirt a lot of the, I guess, bad things that kids could turn to for food when they can just offer them here, not only to the kids, but to the parents. I spoke to a parent also who came here with her son, and she said there are a lot of the kids in the neighborhood who actually come to her place to eat lunch with her son. So this is definitely a need that they have seen, because a lot of the kids are sort of they don't have a lot of those resources necessary, to have healthy meals during the summertime. So this is providing that for them.
And nice to hear, too, that someone who has helped a lot of people can get some help herself, too, with a free meal there. How about the interactions between police officers and the community, too? How much does that play into it, that maybe some of these people think about the police or have interactions with them in a more negative light? What can this be like to sit down at a table, share a meal, share a laugh, and have some actual quality time together?
Yeah, the officer I spoke to, she said this is also a good chance for them to have conversations with family, because like you said, a lot of the times when people have interactions with police, it's not always positive or in the best light. So this is a way for them to bridge that gap between people and police, officers and families, and just show, we're just regular people like you. And what better way, to bond than over breaking bread, to sit and have a meal together, and not only just to show that, the officers are here to help. Inside the cop house right there are a lot of resources and flyers that they have to a lot of the programs that families, need throughout the city of Racine, that the officers are sharing with those parents. So not only is this a way to sort of have a friendly interaction, but also a helpful one as well, to say we're not only helping you today with the meal, but we're also connecting you with different resources that can help you throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's pretty great for sure. All right, if someone's watching this right now and they say, hey, that's a great opportunity, I want to either help out or I need that in my life as well. How many meals does this run throughout the summer? Give us the details so other people can take part in this great program.
So the meals are provided through Milwaukee Center for Independence. However, the cop house, they say they do need more donations, and a lot of the donations that they need are sort of fresh foods and fresh fruits. We're going to link all those because we have a whole list for it. We're going to link those into our story on the website on Fox 6 Now. Actually, do I have it? Okay, so right here I do have a flyer that was provided with me. I'll just give you the lunch time. So yeah, there is a so the lunch time is from 11:45 to 12:15. That's a Monday through Friday, and there's also, like I said, the dinner time at 4:30 Monday through Friday, and it's right here at the Robert Quintanilla Cop House. That's 1140 Geneva Street. But again, like I said, for those donations that they are asking for, like those fresh fruits and things like that, I will link those into our story that's going to air tonight at 6, and you can find that on fox6now.com.
Perfect. Durante Matthews reporting for us and bringing us a nice story here on a Wednesday afternoon. Certainly people in need, but some people getting the assistance they need, which is great to hear, building those bonds down there in Racine.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carl.
As Durante gets back to work there. Again, as he mentioned, his story will be part of our 6 o'clock newscast tonight, both on air and, of course, here streaming on Fox Local, anywhere you find us with that trusty Fox Local streaming app, whether it's on your phone, your smart TV, or the like. All right, we have just enough time for one more break here before we do our little handoff around 1:30 or so. Ben Handelman will be taking over for me on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see what we find, though, to carry you through the news as it happens in Wisconsin and around the country.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here, trying to get you a little bit of information because it's just popped up onto our feeds right now. Let me pull it up for you so you can take a look. This is the courthouse in New York City where the Sean Diddy Combs trial has been playing out over weeks now, I believe 6 weeks. But some major developments in the trial today. And let me pull up more information for you because the prosecutors decided to drop some of the charges that Sean Combs faced. They are expecting closing arguments tomorrow in this trial. Again, there's been a month and a half of testimony, and that was after the prosecution rested its case and the defense said that they would not in fact call any witnesses, including Sean Combs. That's his legal right. He decided not to testify today. I thought I had this for you, but let me try to pull up something. Basically, they are limiting some of the charges. The prosecutors will not seek some of the charges that they started this trial with, but they are hoping to still get a conviction of Sean Combs on some of the other sex trafficking charges. They dropped things like arson. He was accused of lighting Kid Cudi's car on fire. Some charges like that have been dropped, while other still very serious charges remain against Sean Combs. And again, opening statements planned tomorrow. Jury deliberations could begin as soon as Monday in this very high-profile trial of the music mogul who has now become quite disgraced and gone through weeks of testimony there in a New York City courtroom. All right, we are approaching the 1:30 handoff here. Ben Handelman right outside our studio right here of the Wisconsin Live Desk waiting to take over. He's got some great stuff coming up for you as well, including an interesting live interview that he'll tell you about. I'm not going to ruin that for Mr. Handelman there. To handle our handoff, so to speak, I'm going to switch things over. This is just getting underway. As you're seeing Senator Susan Collins there of Maine, a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing about to begin discussing some of the president's requests when it comes to DOGE cuts, the Department of Government Efficiency. Of course, much in the news. Elon Musk is no longer running that department, but it's after major cuts to different parts of the federal government. This is a Senate Appropriations Committee hearing. We will let this work as our handoff, and then Ben Handelman will be with you on the other side. Thanks a lot for watching the Wisconsin Live Desk on this Wednesday afternoon. We're here till 2:30.
The hearing of the Senate Appropriations Committee will come to order. We convened today to review the special message transmitted on June 3rd by the President under the Impoundment Control Act. That message proposes to rescind $9.4 billion in previously appropriated funds, including $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and $8.3 billion for foreign assistance. Testifying on this measure will be the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought. Director Vought, we thank you for being with us here today. We will also receive testimony from Senator Eric Schmidt, who introduced the rescissions legislation, as well as from a committee member, Senator Brian Schatz. The ICA was enacted in the 1970s to protect Congress's constitutional authority with regard to spending. It provides guardrails to ensure that appropriations laws are enforced, while also creating a framework for the President to work collaboratively with Congress to prevent unnecessary expenditures. Under the ICA, the President can propose rescissions, but funding can only be canceled through an act of Congress. I want to emphasize that the process provided in the ICA is neither the only nor the primary way for Congress to effectuate rescissions. This committee regularly includes rescissions in its bills. The recent year-long continuing resolution, for example, included nearly 70 rescissions totaling billions of dollars. Turning now to the June 3rd message, I look forward to learning more about the on-the-ground impact of the package, as several of the proposed rescissions do not specify which programs would be subject to reductions within the overall account. For example, the message proposes a $500 million cut to the Global Health Programs account, but it does not indicate whether life-saving programs like Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, would be affected. This amount is on top of program terminations and suspensions pursued as part of the administration's Foreign Assistance Review and reorganization of USAID. I'm hoping that OMB will clarify the total amount of GHP, Global Health Programs funding, that has been halted. Similarly, the message does not indicate whether aid to key allies like Jordan and Egypt would be reduced as part of the $1.65 billion proposed rescission from the Economic Support Fund. The majority of the proposed rescissions to foreign assistance are from fiscal year 2025 funds. The proposed rescissions for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting are from advance appropriations provided for fiscal years 2026 and 2027. What this means is that this rescissions package, for the most part, has nothing to do with the lengthy list of questionable activities identified by the administration that were paid for with prior year funds. I certainly agree that the taxpayers of the United States should not be paying for things like promoting vegan food in Zambia. However, these and other controversial and questionable projects were the product of the misguided priorities of the Biden administration. Unless the current administration plans to continue these controversial projects that it has identified, which I very much doubt, those projects alone cannot be used to justify the proposed rescissions. I am confident that the Trump administration would not allow this kind of wasteful spending. I do want to know two areas of particular concern to me. The first is the proposed $400 million rescission of funding for the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, better known as PEPFAR. Launched in 2003 by former President George W. Bush, PEPFAR has saved more than 26 million lives and enabled 7.8 million babies to be born HIV-free to mothers living with HIV. This program remains a bipartisan priority of Congress. After years of commitment and stable investment, the finish line is in sight. The United States has the tools to fulfill PEPFAR's mission and get the job done while transitioning HIV/AIDS treatment and prevention to country ownership by the year 2030. Cutting
Ben Handelman
funding
here
now.
from the Wisconsin Live Desk. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday live picture right now as we're looking inside the Senate Appropriations Committee. That is Susan Collins, a Republican from Maine. Under the microscope today is DOGE and the DOGE cuts. Elon Musk, of course, was behind a lot of those cuts. Elon Musk has now left Washington, and now both Republicans and Democrats, they are putting some of those cuts under the microscope tonight. So we're watching this here. I'll get back to this in a second, but I did want to show you some of the other feeds that have come up here. I want to take you live out to the NATO summit. This is at The Hague. As world leaders, they're gathering now. Looks like there's a kind of red carpet event taking place. There has been some big news out in the Netherlands, again, as NATO members. World leaders from all around the world are gathering there. President Donald Trump today on the sidelines of this summit met with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky, suggested that the increased spending by the Transatlantic Alliance, NATO, could help prevent future Russian aggression against its neighbors. And you can see in the crowd, there's a focus here on Ukraine. Ukraine is not, a NATO member here, but the president is there front and center, as you can see, as this group will meet here. And that's one of the sticking points from Russia here. But the NATO members, they agreed to raise their spending targets by 2035 to 5% of gross domestic product annually on core defense requirements, as well as defense and security related spending. This was a big want of President Donald Trump to increase the spending, especially from European countries, on defense spending, to spend more of their own money to defend their countries instead of what the president says, picking up the bill on the American taxpayer. So there has been some movement on that end. But the president today, meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, as a lot of the focus the last few days is what's been happening in Iran and in the Middle East. And today, the focus appears to be shifting back to the war in Ukraine, as all these leaders are hoping to somehow come to some sort of conclusion of that terrible, terrible war between those two countries. And you can see there are supporters of Ukraine at The Hague in the Netherlands as they're trying to push these countries to do more to protect Ukraine, as, again, we've been seeing these talks here today. So big meeting between President Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. We're waiting for world leaders to show up. They've put out the red carpet. They're going to walk right up those stairs, and there are cameras all throughout. So we will continue to follow this here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Diddy trial's coming to a close. We're about to have jury deliberations here, closing arguments about to be made in the case. Live picture from the federal courthouse, New York City. And if you look in the reflection, you see it in the reflection of the doors to the courthouse. Look at all of the network tents that are set up outside there in New York City, as we are expecting big crowds to arrive once a jury starts to tackle this case they've been listening to this for weeks now. Some of the charges were dropped against Sean Diddy Combs in the trial. That's the big news today, as that sometimes happens, that the prosecutors didn't feel like they could prove that and wanted the jury to really focus in on the most serious of charges and some of the accusations there, as this has been really a wild trial. But again, this is all taking place in federal court, so this is as close as our cameras can get inside the courtroom. So we're watching that at this hour. There is something really interesting happening down here at American Family Field, as we have a pitching battle between the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Milwaukee Brewers. Paul Skeens is the stud on the Pirates, made his debut last year, instantly became one of the hottest pitchers in Major League Baseball. He is going up against Jacob Misiorowski, who is making his third start for the Brewers. And he's only, in his three starts, has only given up one hit, has 2 wins. Everybody's talking about the matchup today, and there is a big crowd down there at American Family Field. Currently, the Brewers, I think they've got the bases loaded here, as they're in the 3rd inning. It is a 0-0 score, but we are going to keep watching these scenes as, again, really interesting what's happening at American Family Field. Another thing we're watching today is the weather. As you can see, pretty hazy out there and cloudy. Roof is open at American Family Field, but boy, have we gotten some relief. But there is rain in the forecast, and Summerfest
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, Ben Handelman from the Wisconsin Live Desk here on your Wednesday. Can you believe half the week is gone? And other people are like, yeah, I could totally believe that half the week is gone because it's been a very long week. Lots going on here on our Wednesday. The first thing you'll notice when you walk out the door is hopefully you've done by the time now. It's 1:45 in the afternoon. I hope you've gotten out at some point today. Man, has it cooled down today. So I wanted to bring in my good friend, Stephanie Barrichello, a good friend of the Wisconsin Live Desk. Hey, Steph, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem, Ben. It is. It's quite a bit cooler out there right now. We're only in the mid-60s.
I just dropped my daughter off at summer camp. She does a ferry building camp today.
Oh, cute.
And as soon as we got out of the car, she goes, I'm cold. I need a coat. And I'm like, you don't need a coat. Come on.
It's just so drastic, right?
Yeah.
It's such a drastic change.
She put her, I did have a raincoat for her, and she put that on. The question is, will she need her raincoat at summer camp this afternoon?
So far, so good. I think now is our dry time, so she should be just fine. We do have the chance for a pop-up maybe later this afternoon between, let's say, 4 and maybe 8 p.m. And then after 10 p.m., we could see more of a broken line of storms rolling on through. So we're not done, as I've said many times in the last couple of days, with our rain chances, but now is going to be our dry time. We've stayed dry so far the last couple of hours. The sun is trying to peek out as we speak, though I don't expect much in the way of sunshine today. I mean, temperature is a huge change, too, as we just talked about. It's only 65 degrees in Milwaukee, 70 in Racine, and the farther south you go, there is still some warmth. You can see in Janesville it's 81 degrees, but that's because we have a warm front right there, and that warm front's going to lift northward and move through our area overnight tonight, meaning temperatures are going to start to climb and the heat is back as soon as tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a wacky day too. I think we easily could see middle and upper 80s early, but then a lake breeze will kick in throughout the afternoon, so lakeshore communities will then cool quite a bit. We also again have the chance for storms, Ben, so a lot going on tomorrow. Today, as we just talked about, still a couple of pop-ups possible, but more so later tonight that we'll be dealing with some of that.
I always enjoy the word wacky. Even when used with the weather department. Tomorrow's a big day. I mean, right now we've got the roof open at American Family Field, so they're taking advantage of the dry stretch. Tomorrow, our focus is down at the Summerfest grounds as Summerfest returns. I thought they had a pretty good first 3 days. They did have to deal with the heat, but it could have been worse with the storms, and I think there was only a few rain showers at times down there.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, that could be a different story. If you're going to a show tomorrow night, you got to be weather aware a little bit, right?
Yeah, I do think tomorrow afternoon and especially evening looks a little bit more stormy, unfortunately. Now, there are a lot of overhangs, bathrooms, coverings that you can go into if there are thunderstorms, but just something to keep in mind if tomorrow night is your night to go down to Summerfest. I know I'll be down there at this time tomorrow through the early evening show, so through about 6:30. Gonna bring my rain gear, but thankfully we'll be covered. But yes, not only will we see more of that heat and humidity back, Ben, but I think once we cross into maybe those mid-afternoon hours all the way through the evening, we could have decent thunderstorm activity across all of southeast Wisconsin, not just those pop-ups, but more of that widespread activity tomorrow.
There's a big show on Saturday with Meg the Stallion here. She's a butterfly. I don't know if you can tell. But Saturday, I was looking at the forecast, looks pretty good for Summerfest.
It does. And speaking of lake breeze, that's going to be back on Saturday too. So I think the Summerfest grounds of all places going to be one of the best places to be on Saturday. It looks dry, it looks sunny, maybe low 80s, which is so, I mean, we'll call it comfortable. It'll probably still be a little bit more sticky, but inland areas will be in the mid 80s. So Saturday does look really good. And some positive news too, Ben. Friday is actually trending dry. So I actually think Friday is looking pretty good as well. Ooh. Maybe even a little bit cooler than Saturday.
I'm told if I get out that, here we go. Delaney, our producer, just put in tomorrow night's headliner. Lainey Wilson going with the classic country look in her poster here. She is not a butterfly like Meg the Stallion. Lainey Wilson was on like a side stage, I think, a year ago, and here she is now, this up-and-coming country act. But man, that's good news for country fans tomorrow night.
Yeah, I actually know a few people coming.
I mean, 2 nights away.
Right,
I keep thinking today's Wednesday. I mean, I know today's Wednesday, but I keep thinking tomorrow's Friday. I'm just skipping over Thursday.
Yeah.
But on Friday, this will be a good show.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, wait, time out. Let me reset here. Let's pretend I didn't talk there. Okay.
strike that, reverse it. Let's
Lainey
go through it
Wilson
again.
will be at the Summerfest grounds tomorrow on Thursday, so this might be a little rainy for Lainey Wilson.
Yes, there you go, Ben. Tomorrow, June 26th, Lainey Wilson. Thunderstorms are looking pretty likely at this point. Hopefully it'll become more scattered, but if you're going to be there, got to be prepared for absolutely some rain by the time this starts.
The Killers are on Friday, I believe.
Killers, thank you. That's going to be a killer show.
Yeah, I have seen Ike Winter, who's did the wood carvings, and he had all the logos up for the NFL draft. He has made a Killers logo, and maybe this is new shtick on social media to draw some attention, but he has now made this big thing, and he's trying to get the Killers' attention so he can deliver them this big, giant piece of wood.
Oh, we got to help him out with that.
I think that's awesome, but at the same token, these guys travel. So if you're given this giant piece of wood, where do you put it?
Well, don't you think that they could probably afford to have it shipped? You know?
Now you're talking. I think Summerfest maybe help them
Hopefully.
out as well. And looking ahead, Steph, okay, now that there's been pool season, because last weekend was bonkers, but it was great pool weather.
Yes.
And now I'm kind of like, I want it to be a little hot. Are we trending in the... now today I'm like, oh man, this is not a pool day.
Right.
So now I'm thinking, man, are we going to trend back towards hot weather in the future?
Yeah, we still have a lot of warmth. We have a lot of 80s in the extended forecast. Even on our days with a lake breeze, I think we'll still primarily see 80s. Of course, the lake is still in the 50s this time of year, so it could still keep us cooler, kind of like today. But looking ahead, at least for the next 6 days, we could still see 90s on Sunday. So it's likely going to be that pattern of a couple of really hot days, maybe a cool down, a couple more hot days, maybe a cool down. Not as hot as what we just experienced, but again, Sunday's high temperature right now, 92 degrees, and even into early next week, we've got low 80s back in the forecast. So I still think there's a lot of summer-like weather ahead. We've talked about this before, Ben, too. The humidity is not going away anytime soon, so that alone is going to be enough to make you want to take a dip.
That'll be good. I was talking with my wife about this. She said when she was a kid, because the first day when you get out of school and you think the summer's so long, she thought by the time you reached July 4th, she was already depressed thinking about school again.
Yeah.
And it goes by so quick. Here we are. We're almost into July as we head that way. I thought she was crazy because even when you hit July 4th, you have all of July and usually half of August still.
Yeah, I know. You know what I think about? My dad grew up in a small town, central Illinois town, and we would go down there periodically during the summer, and I would watch the corn grow and grow, and I always knew that when that corn was super tall, it sadly was time to go back to school. Vivid memories.
Knee-high by the 4th of July, isn't that what they always say about the corn?
That is what they say. Wow, good work.
Yeah.
And you're an East Coaster.
Yeah, I know,
Do
but
you guys even have corn
I
by
spent
you?
some time in central Illinois. Actually, you might not believe this, but my first ever job, I worked at a corn stand.
Did you
Yes,
really?
there was a corn farmer in my town, and I worked at. So
Wow.
yeah, we got corn in New England.
Proud.
We got lots of farmers. Stephanie Barrichello, thanks for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Of course, have a good one.
Appreciate it. I love when Steph comes on to tell us about the weather and Summerfest and all the fun things. The Brewers, they just broke through and scored on Paul Skeens. They're now winning 3-0, which is pretty awesome for the Brewers because this could honestly be like, I was thinking like a 1-0 game. Whoever scores first wins. But we got a pitching duo. That is a big sports headline down there at the Summerfest grounds. But in just a few minutes here, we're going to talk with a Bucks legend, Marcus Johnson, broadcaster. Of course, you know him on the Bucks sidelines now as well. He's going to join us. He was recently honored with something really special, and I can't wait to take that interview coming up in about 5 minutes. Let's go back around the horn here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. A lot of our feeds right now are coming in nationally. We've got our eyes right now on the NATO summit as they've got the red carpet out. We're expecting an event where the focus will be on Ukraine tonight, and there was some news made today as President Donald Trump met with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on the sidelines of this big summit, saying he believes that the increased spending that President Trump was able to get out of the NATO members, now increasing their spending from 2% to 5% on defense budgets, that will keep Ukraine safe. A lot of people are wondering, though, how can they end the war in Ukraine? Is there anything that this group can be doing, or what will they be talking about that can end that terrible war between Russia and Ukraine? So that is a big focus that we're watching at this hour. We've got our eyes on Washington. There are two big meetings happening now, right now, live picture. Senate Appropriations Committee is on your screen right here, and the focus is DOGE.
$3 million.
Elon Musk, of course, left DOGE, but the cuts remain, and now Republicans and Democrats are focusing in on some of those cuts during this meeting today before this group of senators out there in Washington. One senator who's not in the room, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, who's holding a press conference right now. This is about safety, airline safety, and I believe, well, hold on. Let's listen into this press conference. Sean Duffy was supposed to be there, obviously from the Trump administration, and it's pretty rare you get these two in the same room. Let's listen to this just for a few minutes here. We're talking airline safety.
We have three speakers. We have Karen Eckert, who knows this tragedy in two ways. We have Marilyn Kausner. The Kausners have been down here many times. And, you know, Tim Kennedy has taken up the mantle of helping and being a great partner on this issue. And I very much appreciate him. We'll hear from him as well, and they gave me a little sign, so I'm going to hold it up, right with all of you, okay? Everyone got it?
Okay, Ben Handelman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. So we're watching all of these live feeds, which is the joy of our program here from near and far. And obviously we've been watching some big news being made out there in Washington, but a pretty rare event where we have Chuck Schumer and Sean Duffy, Democrat and Republican, in the same room right now. So we're watching that. But we're going to bring things back locally here because we've got a special interview coming up here on the Live Desk with a Bucks legend. Marcus Johnson, you know him obviously for all the great years he played on some of the greatest teams that the Bucks ever came out of Milwaukee. He played on those teams. We know him now also as a terrific broadcaster, but he just got a special honor, and it's another part of his life that he often talks about, but not everybody knows the story, and I can't wait to bring Marcus on here as we're going to have a pretty special interview coming up live here on the Wisconsin Live Desk in about 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
gentlemen, here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is 2 o'clock on the dot here on your Wednesday. Welcome to the show where you know how it works here. Everything's got to be live. We're watching all these live feeds coming in. I want to just take you live what we're watching at The Hague in the Netherlands, because this shot has just popped up, and that is the president of Ukraine, who has just jumped out of a motorcade as world leaders are there. A lot of them meeting with that man on the right. President Donald Trump made big news earlier today by meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky. As so many world leaders, they're trying to figure out, is there a way to stop the war between Ukraine and Russia? So there's a red carpet event. We're watching world leaders arrive, but everyone is pretty much focused on the man right there from Ukraine, and we'll see what comes out of these meetings in the Netherlands. Of course, President Donald Trump is there, and we will continue to take this shot live. But I'm going to bring things back here locally here, because we do have a special interview here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. He is maybe one of the greatest Bucks to play. He's a Bucks legend. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Honestly, he's a better broadcaster, and that maybe says a lot about the kind of work he does for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's Marcus Johnson joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Really appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. The pleasure is all mine, especially with everything that's going on in the world. I appreciate you carving out a little time for the original MJ. You know, I'm the MJ that Michael Jordan had on his wall at North Carolina. Had my poster. What goes up, what goes in, right behind me. That's a rendition that my son Mariah painted for me. But Johnson's Law, that poster was on Michael Jordan's wall when he was at North Carolina. He always talks about how I was one of his favorite players coming up. So to me, that's Hall of Fame worthy, isn't it?
I
you got
would
Michael
think
Jordan.
so.
You got the greatest of all time saying that that you were his inspiration. I don't know.
I do want to talk a little bit of basketball with you on the back end, but I do want to talk about a special honor you just got from a very special organization here in Milwaukee, Serenity Inns. They're a rehab facility for men with substance abuse issues, and you have thrown your support, financial, time, everything behind this organization here in Milwaukee that has helped now more than 700 men. And recently, they have just named their exercise room the Marcus Johnson Wellness Room. Got some pictures here of the ribbon cutting that just happened, but of one of their facilities. But congratulations on the new honor.
Look, man, I appreciate it, and it is indeed an honor. Ken Genlack, the gentleman in that photo in the purple, two places to my right, approached me 2 or 3 years ago about getting involved in Serenity Inn. He explained exactly what kind of work they were doing in Milwaukee, the recovery centers, the holistic approach to recovery, the desire to get men in Milwaukee who suffer from substance use disorder. Now, we used to call it substance abuse back in the day, but the terminology now has changed. It's substance use disorder, so I got to get used to saying that. But the idea is the same: is to help these young men who are struggling with various substances in their life get back on their feet. A holistic approach. It's teaching them to be have financial literacy. It's teaching them how to fill out resumes and applications. It's teaching them all kinds of things. The workout center, just keeping their body, keeping their mind right. It's just a full throttle approach that has been successful. As you mentioned, over 700 men have gone through the program, have gotten on with their lives in a productive and positive way. And I'm just fortunate, honored, and grateful to be a part of the whole thing.
Marcus, you're very open about your own struggles with your own issues. And I don't think even as much, you're so willing to talk about it, but not everybody knows the backstory of your own struggles and what you have overcome more than 2 decades now that you have been sober. But that journey, I don't think everybody knows it. For you, when did you realize you were having an issue?
Well, it started back in the 80s in Milwaukee. There was a cocaine explosion. I don't know how many people are familiar with the series Snowfall on TV, but I lived Snowfall just in terms of the cocaine influx into this country. And there was a lot of guys in athletics, outside of athletics, that got caught up. And it turned out to be something initially that was on the cover of Time magazine, cocaine. It was a martini glass, I remember. And they were talking about how it was a new wonder drug, and it was exhilarating, and it helped all kinds of things, more energy and better for this and better for that. And no one knew at that time just how addictive that substance was. And so I used it like everyone else recreationally to start out with. But then, as we say in recovery, you cross that invisible line. Now all of a sudden, you're not doing it because you want so much as you're doing it because you almost have to do it. And then also in terms of controlling the amounts and all that, the intake and all that, once you start, it's just hard to stop. And so that's when I realized that, I did have that addictive gene, and that there was something that needed to be done about it. And so I've been in and out of programs back in 1982 with the Bucks. Don Nelson and the team had heard that I was involved in drugs in Milwaukee. And so I did go through a program in 82, got back out, relapsed, and it was, in and out of use and non-use for a number of years. And then, as you mentioned, 23 years ago, as we say, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was one of those functional people that was addicted to drugs and alcohol, where I was able to do a lot of good, positive things in television and basketball, the post-career, during my career. But it just got to a point, man, where I knew that that my luck was going to run out at some point, and I just needed to change the course of my life. And that happened for me in 2002, and it was the best decision that I'd ever made. And by the grace of God, I've been sober ever since. And my life has continued to get better and better. I wound up getting this job with the Milwaukee Bucks about 11 years ago. That was a true godsend. I was able to work with organizations in the city of Milwaukee, like the Running Rebels with Victor and Don Barnett, that Kevon Looney went through, that does a great job with their programs. Crystal McLean has a great program for young ladies who are trying to get their lives together, called Revive Youth. And now Serenity Inn with Ken Genlack. Ken Genlack came to me 3 years ago. And the funny part about it is that, the ironic part about it, let me put it that way, is that I had been going to a recovery meeting on the east side on Prospect for years. And so I knew a lot of these guys who were at Serenity Inn. I heard a lot of good, positive things that they had shared about Serenity Inn. I'd become a mentor for a lot of these guys already. And so then when Ken approached me about being officially a part of the board and doing whatever I could do to help raise awareness and raise resources, I was more than willing to do it.
Yeah. And for you, when you said you were kind of a functional substance abuse user, does that almost make it more difficult to get help?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if there was a point in your life where you realized you'd hit rock bottom, or it was just you didn't like where your life was going.
Well, God doing for me what I can't do for myself. So in 2002, first of all, Christmas of 2001, this is right after 9/11, and the world was all over the place at that time. But 2001 Christmas, I didn't spend it with my family for the first time ever, and I was just off on my own, doing what I do, and coming up with all these excuses about Christmas being commercial, and Christmas, all these negative connotations behind Christmas and the spirit of Christmas, and how it's a bunch of bullcrap. And so I didn't spend it with my family. And unbeknownst to me, my family did not hold it against me. My mother was real loving and just told me that she knew something was going on. The point is that January, my father died. That February, my then girlfriend, future wife's mother died. That January, my sister died. That February, my future mother-in-law died. That March, my father died. And I wound up getting sober in April. So it was like just a bang, bang, bang of just traumatic events that happened, and I wasn't in a good place. And that was the time when I felt like I needed to really take a good look at what I was doing. And so I wound up getting sober in April. And then as destiny would have it, my grandmother, who I'm really close to, she wound up dying in May. So it was a lot of things going on right around that period of my life. And that was the bottom for me. Even though I was a functional alcoholic, I was doing things, being productive as an addict alcoholic, making a good living in broadcasting, doing movies, doing TV, doing a whole lot of good stuff. I knew that, once I started to partake in some substance use, that the disorder would kick in, and who knows what would happen. So yeah, I was fortunate. The grace of God, I like to say, was shined upon my life, and I was able to come in and get the help that I needed, and have been sober ever since.
What's so powerful about what Serenity Inns does too, it's getting people to stick with the program.
Yeah.
You've been more than 20 years now. What has it been for you that's been able for you to stay sober?
Well, it's the discipline of, we say that we get sober with our feet. And so it's going to meetings. It's working the program, the process that's outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That means we've got the steps. We've got a whole process, a blueprint for living, a design for living, as we call it. But it entails a lot of things, a lot of searching inward, a lot of outward, making amends to people, making reparations where possible. It's a lot of good stuff like that. And what that does as you go through that process, it keeps you in a conscious contact with a spiritual aspect of your life that you rely on to get sober. And for most people, I mean, Oscar Wilde, great writer, once said that show me an alcoholic and I'll show you a man looking for God. And a lot of times alcohol and drugs are a substitute trying to fill that spiritual void that a lot of us are walking around in. Now, I grew up in the church, preachers all through my family, grandfather, uncles, cousins, everybody. I can name 40 right off the top of my head who are preachers, but I just never had that personal contact with this spiritual aspect of my life. And I like to say that God led me to AA, and then AA led me back to God. And that's what happened in my life.
It's incredible because everyone walks a different path. And I mean, as you are so open about talking about this, as you have been, so many people I think have walked up to you, but no story really is the same, right?
Right. Well, no story is the same, but this program, the Alcoholics Anonymous program, just celebrated, I think, 90 years or more. I forget what the exact number is, but it was all about one alcoholic, Bill Wilson, sharing with another alcoholic, Dr. Bob. That was the first time that he had shared what he was going through. He talked to another guy who was struggling, and there was power in that. And there's a spiritual principle where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, then there's power there. And so there's power and that was the thing that helped me, man. It was hearing other people who were worse off than I was, just as bad off as I was, not as bad off as I was, but who had given themselves over to this new way of life, to this process. And then all of a sudden they had strung together 5 years and 10 years and 20 years for productive members of society. And these guys who were, crack addicts sleeping under bridges and all these things that I'd never had to experience in terms of being destitute. And so in my mind, it was like, well, if these guys can do it, maybe there's a chance for me, because I'm nowhere near as bad off as that. And so I just immersed myself into the process, man. I, went to meetings, 2, 3, 4 times a day over the first few months, and just so enamored with the prospect of getting sober and staying sober that got me started. And since then, I've been an active participant. And so when I get a chance to reach out and do things with Serenity Inn and programs like this, I'm not doing it. I'm doing it to help others. It's an altruistic meaning behind it, but I'm also aware that it's going to help me also, because it keeps me out of my head, keeps me out of myself, makes me feel good about myself, helps my self-esteem, and that's a big part of the process in terms of sobriety.
What I thought was interesting, I read a little bit of times you've talked about this. There were people who've come to try and help you, and I think when someone you knew came and said, you got to leave LA. And for you, what I think is interesting, you said, I can't leave LA. That's not what I'm not going to leave. That's not going to sober me up and change me. And really, I think a lot of people, they can't just leave the situation that they're in, and there's some power into changing your life, but staying where you are when that's not going to help you at times.
Well, and again, it's another recovery saying in terms of making a geographic attempt to get sober, is that wherever I go, I take me with me.
Right.
So wherever I go, so toward the end of my career, I went over and played in Italy. I thought there was a great chance for me to take a break from the United States, from Los Angeles, get to Italy, and try and clean up my act, so to speak. So I get over to Italy, and one of my teammates with the Italian league team I played for, Udine Fantoni, a guy by the name of Lorenzo Bettarini, he had a farm where he grew this strawberry wine. And the strawberry wine, man, was like 33% alcohol. And now all of a sudden I found myself drinking, 4 and 5 bottles a night. A case would last me maybe a week. And I go back to him, man, I need another case. But so the point is that I went over to Italy thinking I'm going to be having a chance to isolate, get myself together. And there's alcohol in Italy. There's no getting away from it. So until I looked at myself and decided that it was an inside job that needed to be dealt with first, there was no chance for any long-term sobriety. There were a few moments, brief periods where I would get sober, go to church, and get a spiritual experience in church, but those were not long lasting because I didn't do the aftercare that was needed to continue to look within myself and continue to try to be the best version of myself.
And Serenity Inns now, I mean, they're helping so many people. Can you talk about their facilities? I think we've got a picture here of you. I think this is inside their workout facility there, but this is new. They've kind of been growing and being able to help more people there.
Well, and that's the thing. We want to make it a place where, you know, you're not there with a negative mindset. You're there with a positive mindset, a great workout room to make sure that you stay on top of the physical. And that's that holistic nature of in terms of the approach to recovery that Serenity Inns takes. And so it's all about the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the psychic, everything. Financial literacy, as I talked about before. Every aspect of a man's life, because once you are addicted or once you have substance use disorder, there's that nice plaque. There was a gentleman, one of the board members was the anonymous donor. I still don't know who it was, but he plunked down a whole bunch of money.
$30,000.
$30,000 to get that fitness room named after me. And so it's just such an honor for someone to show that kind of gesture of love and of caring. But again, it's all about having a first-class place for these young men to work on themselves, to get sober, and hopefully through the work they put in, through the grace of God, stay sober. So it's a great facility. It's a great opportunity for those that are willing to support this cause. Look, you know, substance use disorder really kind of came to the forefront with the opioid crisis in the Midwest, some of the outlying areas that didn't know anything about the crack epidemic that we dealt with in the inner cities. Now, there's the opioid epidemic that has touched so many lives. So, you know, in terms of drugs and alcohol and addiction, I mean, it's a scourge. It's a scourge on society that knows no gender, no race, no economics, no social class, knows nothing, and it's out to kill us. Is what it's out to do. It's out to kill us and convince us in our minds that life is unmanageable, that life is unlivable, and the only thing that can cure that is to escape reality as far away as possible into oblivion. So it's a treacherous disease, man, that has touched the lives of so many people.
Well, congratulations. The Marcus Johnson Wellness Center now named after you, after you've shared your journey and helped so many men who are really following kind of in the same footsteps.
Yeah, man. It's such an honor, and I'm so grateful that God has placed me in this position. God knew what he was doing, because I didn't want to come back to Milwaukee. When I got offered this Bucks job, I'm like, man, I hadn't been back in 30 years. I'm doing radio in Los Angeles, doing okay in LA. And then just things worked out so well. Peter Fagan and the crew have taken such good care of me with the Bucks. And then all of a sudden, I'm able to reach out and do so many things for so many in the community. When I played for the Bucks, man, I didn't do a whole lot in terms of positive outreach. I did a few camps here and there, but I wasn't about pouring myself back into the community. Now I get a chance to come back after all these years and take a totally different approach, man. And it's just a blessing to be able to do so.
Well, we are so fortunate that you have come back and to be able to hear you and the stories that you share, and really what you add to the broadcast it's next level, I got to say. Can we talk a little basketball while I've got you? Because there's been a lot of news in the NBA, and I'm seeing all these stars, whether it's Kevin Durant or Drew Holiday, who a lot of people are like, why did we trade him? Suddenly he's gone from Boston, and Porzingis has gone from Boston. A lot of people are wondering, what are the Bucks doing? A whole lot of nothing so far. What's your take been on, now that the offseason has just started, what the Bucks have not done and what they need to do?
Well, and then that former Rufus King, great Jordan Poole, I think he's moved on to New Orleans. So it's a lot of movement. John Horst, you know, I just believe in this management team that we have with Milwaukee, and we're a bit hamstrung just in terms of our financial flexibility. That's where the Chris Middleton, Kyle Kuzma trade did help us, and so it's going to be up to management to find these gems for low cost, like Gary Trent Jr., who came in and played spectacularly last year, or Kevin Porter Jr., who we got, you know, for a little bit more than a minimum, who came in and played tremendous basketball. So there's guys like that available. I suspect after the draft, the next week or two, when things kind of settle down, that you'll see more movement from the Bucks in. But there's going to be moves to be made, and they'll be on the margins. We don't have I don't think the financial flexibility to make a major move at this point. Who knows? You know, you could package together some guys. That's up to John Horst to decide. But trust me, you want to keep Giannis around. You want to keep Giannis inspired, motivated. You want to keep Giannis feeling like you're doing everything within your power to help him get that shot at a second championship. And that's where our energies lay now. So I have all the confidence in the world that Bucks management will make that happen.
I feel like the NBA is in such an interesting spot right now. When you were playing basketball, the superstars were always in the finals, or they were going head-to-head in the playoffs. What we just saw between Indiana and Oklahoma, a lot of guys who weren't household names playing in the most important game. That never happened in your era. I mean, all the guys who were the big names found a way to be there deep into the playoffs. Now, I just think, is it depth?
Yeah, well, you got a guy like Sam Presti in Oklahoma City who's done a tremendous job of piecing that team together. I think 2 or 3 years ago they won 24 games, but they stuck with the young players. They watched them develop. They got a tremendous leader in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who knew that Jalen Williams was going to develop into the kind of player he became, to score 40 points in the finals and do some of the things that he has done. He kind of caught people by surprise, and that's the key. Get these guys who other people have passed on, other people maybe don't recognize their potential. Quick story about Sam Presti. When he was trying to decide between Russell Westbrook, Jared Bayless, and another player, he called me up and he asked me which was a better player at that point. And I told him these other two guys were better. He's like, who's going to be better in 5 years? And I told him, well, Russell Westbrook is going to be better than Jared Bayless, or O.J. Mayo was the third player in that group. And so you've got to have that ability to kind of project. I won't say predict, but project it to the future and see a diamond in the rough. We've got one in Orion Rollins, for example, I'm big on. And I think in 3 or 4 years, he could be a really, really, really great player in this league. So it's all about developing what you have, understanding and recognize the potential of guys out there who are available right now, but will be very desirable in 3 or 4 years from now.
Honestly, it gives me hope as a Bucks fan that, we don't have obviously we're going to lose Damian Lillard to his injury, sadly. Yeah. But who knows who could step up and be that guy to get the Bucks deep next year, because that's what's happening on other teams.
Yeah, no, and again, it's all about watching these young players kind of grow and flourish. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Bobby Portises and the Brook Lopez, their contract situations. But, we're still, if everybody comes back intact from last year, even without Dame Lillard, throw in a couple of pieces on the margins to kind of help out. This is still a very competitive basketball team. Anytime you got one of the top 2 or 3 best players in the world in Giannis Antetokounmpo holding things down with his ability to put up 30 points and 12 rebounds and 6 assists and dominate the game at the defensive end of the floor, you got a chance. You got a puncher's chance to make some noise. And then you factor in no Tyrese Halliburton with the Patriots, no Jason Tatum, these Achilles injuries, Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is gone from Boston. So it's interesting that this Eastern Conference is in major flux right now.
So true.
Knicks are changing coaches. So I think, I won't say wide open, but it's a lot more open than I think we thought it was going to be about a month ago.
Yeah, and they've got the best analyst on the sidelines. So that's got to help, right? Marcus Johnson from Milwaukee Bucks, Bucks legend. Appreciate you spending some time with us here on the Wisconsin Live.
Always a pleasure. Anytime, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. What a great interview. What special work he's done, and what a journey he has faced. Obviously, with his struggles with substance abuse that he's willing to share, and now he's making a difference to so many men with Serenity Inns here in Milwaukee. All right, stay with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. I got some new feeds coming in. I'll bring them to you.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Ben Haleman from the Wisconsin Live Desk. What up, news nerds? Man, Marcus Johnson, what a great interview he is. We really appreciate him spending some time with us, talking about his backstory. If you didn't know it, man, is it eye-opening, interesting. He's doing so much good work, so it's great having him here on the Live Desk. We're watching a little weather here today. It is a roof open kind of moment right now for the Milwaukee Brewers. They're playing a game against the Pirates. They're actually winning 4-0 in what is a huge pitching duel. But good news, the roof is open because all the rain, it's heading up towards the Twin Cities and Minneapolis, the rest of Wisconsin. Now, we could have some showers overnight. There may be some rumbles of thunder if you're going to Summerfest tomorrow. And hey, if you're going to the Summerfest this weekend, there are big names. I think this is the biggest name going to Summerfest this weekend. Well, Meg Thee Stallion's playing on Saturday. That's a pretty big name, too. And Lainey Wilson, big country name, she'll be playing tomorrow night. But the Killers are coming to town. Cold War Kids are going to open up for them. That's on Friday, and the weather looks absolutely perfect. Stephanie says we're actually trending towards drier weather out there at the Summerfest ground. So we'll keep watching that. We are watching what's going on at The Hague right now as we've got a new image that's just come in. As you can see, this is the NATO summit's underway, and I believe, let's listen in and see just for a couple seconds here as Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine meeting with other world leaders.
Lawless, and it is escalating. As new strikes intensify and global attention shifts elsewhere, we cannot hide. We cannot hesitate. We cannot look away. Dear President Zelensky, your presence here today in Strasbourg at the height of the war in Ukraine sends a very strong message that reaches people far beyond these walls. As Ukraine's men, women, and children continue to suffer, it tells Europe and the world that law must speak louder than the bombs, that the arc of history bends toward justice, and that this Europe, 46 nations strong, will write its own destiny. We always have the choice. We can treat aggression as a politics, not a crime. We can let those who planned and launched the war in Ukraine walk free. We can let global attention drift and pretend that Europe's security and Europe's values are not on trial again.
All right, Ben Haleman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. So we're continuing to listen into this NATO summit here. Hey, you know the drill here on the Live Desk. This is Fox Local, so all these stories that are breaking news, you can actually read these stories throughout the day here on your Fox Local app. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, Fox Local, it's free. Download it, go to the App Store. Tons of news and weather. You can actually watch news from all around the country, from all the different stations and the biggest markets all around the United States. So thanks for joining us here on the Live Desk. That was a fun-packed and wild 2 hours. Wisconsin Live Desk. We call it wild. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow.